My name is Bob Stewart. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can do that on Facebook, facebook.com/ActiveBob, or you can tweet me at ActiveBob. So let's talk about why do people go online for real estate? And there's really three primary reasons that people are going online as it relates to real estate. Okay? They're going online to find listings, and we hopefully all of us have listings on our website, right? We've got an IDX feed from our MLS, and we're able to display listings on our website. But listings are everywhere, okay? They're on our websites, they're on the Zillows, the Trulias, the Realtor.coms, the Realestate.coms, some of the big box sites out there. They're on all of your brokerage websites. So listings are in a lot of places. People also go online for home values, and this is why a site like Zillow has, millions and millions of unique visitors every month. People are going online to try to get an idea of what their homes are worth. They're also going online for information. And I realize information is kind of this huge bucket that covers all of the other reasons, all of the questions that people are trying to get answered, or all of the information they're looking for about a specific subdivision or condo complex they want to live in, like we talked a lot about in our last two classes in the boot camp series. But this bucket of information. So we need to realize when people are going online for these sorts of things, how are we going to kind of direct them back to us and ultimately attempt to capture them as a prospect or a lead for our business? So one of the primary reasons that people are going online is to find listings. But what we see, and we talked about this a bunch in last week's class where we talked about keyword phrases and some of the ways people search, and people will search for things like homes for sale in Redmond near Microsoft. Our blog can serve to get in front of those people in the search engine so that as they query these things, right, these kind of long tail sorts of keyword phrases that we talked about last week, they're going to find our blog posts. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what a lot of them wanted when they landed on our blog post was to actually find the listings that related to the search that they did. So if we wrote a blog post about homes for sale in Redmond near Microsoft, for instance, right? Somebody could land on that blog post. We'd have this kind of evergreen piece of content, this timeless piece of content where we talked about maybe some of the neighborhoods that you could live in. You want to make sure that you're close to 520 and, all these different things that we could talk about. But somewhere in there, if that's what they queried, they're going to want to find listings. So we need to figure out within our blog post, what is the best way to serve listings up to people. And the most obvious one, and probably the one that most everybody is going to want to use somewhere in a piece of content that you create, is a link. Okay, so a couple of things related to the link, and then we're going to go in and I'm going to show you how to create a link. We'll talk about where to place it, and probably the most important aspect out of this is we'll talk about where to send somebody. So we want to make sure that our link has specific anchor text, okay? And anchor text is just the words out of which we create the link. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second, and this will be massive review for a lot of you guys. We want to make sure that our link lands the consumer in exact spot. We want it to be in as few of clicks as possible to get what they thought they were getting. And then we want the listings to be the primary focus of the landing page. So when we're placing a link in our blog post, one of the things that we want to make sure is that the link is above the fold and it clearly details what they're going to get. So this is just a sample of somebody's blog post where they were writing about homes for sale in Seattle, Cedar Park. And Cedar Park is a subdivision inside of Seattle. Okay, so we see in here that somewhere above the fold, and what I mean by above the fold is when somebody lands on the page, they don't have to scroll down in order to see our link. Because if they wanted to see the homes for sale in Cedar Park, and our blog post is able to get them there, but we're not actually displaying a list of all the current listings because a year from now, those listings are going to be gone, right? We want to have a link back to our IDX that gives them the information that they were after, which in this case would have been homes for sale in Seattle, Cedar Park. And then the link needs to clearly detail what they'll get, which in this case would be homes for sale in Cedar Park. So let's go in here for a second and let's take a look at how we would go about doing this. So in this case, instead of homes for sale in Cedar Park, I'm writing my blog post about bank-owned properties in Green Lake, Seattle. So I've restated my keyword phrase because that's one of the things we talked about in our first boot camp class. Okay, and then I get in here and I'm starting to talk about, hey, are you looking for a great deal? And you see I've used this on a bank-owned property in Seattle, in Green Lake, right? Well, somewhere in here I want to get that link, and you'll notice right in here I've got this click here if you want to find the currently available bank-owned properties in Green Lake, Seattle. So this phrase right here that I'm going to highlight and create a link out of becomes my anchor text, right? So again, this part is review for a lot of you guys. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to link to something. Okay, now when I'm creating links, I have two options here for the target: open link in the same window and open link in the new window. What you want to do is, if you want them on the site that you are sending them to, you're going to open that in the same window. If you just assume that they be back on your blog post, you're going to open that in a new window. And here's why. If I'm sending them to my website where they're going to look for properties, I want, when they click on that link, my blog post has fulfilled its duty. Right? Its duty was to get them over to my IDX site looking at listings where I can potentially capture them as a lead. Okay? So I'm going to open that in the same window because I hope that they get 10 clicks deep in my website and they've forgotten about that blog post because, again, it fulfilled its purpose. If I was linking off to a site that I was just sending them for maybe information purposes, like let's say I was writing about a condo complex and I wanted to link to the homeowners association's website. I don't have any lead capture capabilities on the homeowners association's website, so I would open that link in a new window. Because once they go to the homeowners site, what's going to happen is it's going to pop open a new tab or a new window on their browser, and when they finish there and they shut it down, they're going to be back on my blog post. Okay, so if I want them where I'm sending them, I'm going to open it in the same window. If I just assume that they come back to my blog, I'm going to open it in a new window. And then for the title, this is going to be a little bit of extra information about to the search engines of what the person should expect to find when they land here. So this is going to be, you know, a list of current bank-owned properties in Green Lake. All right, just giving that search engine a little bit of extra information about what they should expect to find on the other side of this link. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that. And now once I was to come down here and publish my blog post, hopefully this will work, what I'll see is that I've got this. Now this is what it would look like if somebody landed on the page, right? So if they did the query out of Google, it landed them on my page, they're going to clearly see in here above the fold, right? They don't have to scroll down to get it, that if they wanted to click here, they're going to get that list of the currently available bank-owned properties in Green Lake. Okay, so it's above the fold. It clearly states to them, based on the anchor text, what it is that they should expect to find on the other side of that link. Okay, so I said that I would thread this theme kind of throughout the hour that we're going to share here, the landing page. And when I created my link just a minute ago, I linked them back to the home page of my website. If you take one thing away from this class today, this is by far, I believe, to be the most important aspect of calls to action in your blogs, and it's your landing page. Okay, so the idea with the link, we'll talk about image calls to action here in a little bit, right, is I'm getting them to pass to my site. So when I do that, I want to make sure that they go to the right place. So let's go back to our live example here. And if I am talking about bank-owned properties in Green Lake, what would somebody expect to find when they click on this link? They expect to find a list of properties in Green Lake that are in foreclosure, right? I mean, that's what I would expect to find when I click on this link. Now, the way that I set it up, I have it going to the home page of my website. Not, you know, probably the best place for me to be sending somebody. So is there a better place on my website that I could send them? Well, here's the home page, right? And there's on my homepage there happens to be an ability for them to search, which is pretty good. But here's a truth in online marketing. There's kind of two that are related here. The first one is you have a very short amount of time to capture somebody's attention when they click a link. It's about 4 seconds. And in some cases, it's not even that long. So when they click a link, they're expecting to see something specific. And in our case, it's bank-owned properties in Green Lake. So when they land here, are they immediately seeing bank-owned properties in Green Lake like they thought they were going to be getting? No. Now, this site does give me a pretty good chance here to kind of get them engaged, and hopefully they would search for that. But I don't want to take that chance, because the second kind of truth in online marketing is the more clicks it takes somebody to find what they want, the higher likelihood it is that they will leave and not take the action that we hope that they would take. And so in our case, when we're talking about bank-owned properties in Green Lake and somebody finding my blog post, what is the action I want them to take? I want them on my website looking at listings where I can potentially capture them as a prospect in my business. Okay. Now every additional click that I make them to take, like right here, I'd have to go Green Lake. Like, look at all these clicks, right? I'm doing some searches here, right? I'm okay. Green Lake. Well, let's see. I don't know. Maybe I want more options. I wanted foreclosures, right? So here's a secondary page that I could have sent them to, and this page has its own URL that I could link to, right? I could send them to the search page, because on this search page, and it wouldn't, I think as a default, it would look like this, right? Well, they could get in here and do foreclosures, right? Okay, so they just want the foreclosures in Green Lake. But again, you see all these extra clicks that I'm forcing the person to take? So it doesn't really make sense to send them to this page either. The page that makes the most sense to send them to would be this page. So I'm going to do a search on my own website, and I'm going to get a URL that lands the person who was reading my blog post in a very specific place. Okay? I'm going to land them on the 6 properties that are currently available in Green Lake, Seattle. So I would take this URL here, I would copy it, and then when I came back to my blog post to create the link, instead of just sending them to the home page of my website and hoping that in 4 seconds I capture their attention and hoping that it doesn't take them too many clicks to get to what they wanted, because then if it takes them too many, they're going to leave. I'm going to make it real easy. I'm going to come in here and make this link, instead of just going to my home page, it's going to go to this big long URL that gives them just short sale, or I'm sorry, the foreclosure or bank-owned properties in Green Lake. I'm going to hit update, right? So now I've got a good clean link in there that when I publish this blog post and somebody lands on it, if what they really wanted was the listings, it's going to be really easy for them to get back there and find those listings. And again, this overtook the page that I was on because I told it to open in the same window, because now that they're here, I want them in here clicking around. I want them, looking at more homes. I want them ultimately to be sprung with some kind of a lead capture capability on my website. Okay. So the landing page is I can't stress how important this is. And we learned this, before we had ActiveRain, we had our own real estate brokerage, and our site ranked very well organically in the search engines. But the way that we learned this lesson the hardest way was doing pay-per-click advertising. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever done pay-per-click advertising, but what happens in pay-per-click advertising is you go out and you pay to drive people to your website. And so we started out, and we would do things like, we would do these ads, find homes for sale in Seattle, and we would drop them on our homepage. And we just learned over time that the more specific we got. So then we thought we got a little bit better, and we were like, all right, well, let's try landing them on a list of properties in all of Seattle, right? And so they would land there, and what would happen is you could, our website would allow to sort by like highest price properties. So they'd land there, and there'd be these $15 million properties, and we realized, man, nobody, very few people going online searching homes for sale in Seattle are interested in these kinds of properties. As we got better at it, what we would start to do is we would land people on, a list of homes in Seattle at an average median price point, between $450,000 and 250,000. We just got really good at getting very specific landing pages for people to land on. And what we saw is that we would get increased conversions because, again, immediately they saw what they wanted, and it didn't take them additional clicks to get to where we wanted them to be or to where they ultimately wanted to be as well. Now, I want to take you outside of your blog for just a second, because these kinds of landing pages can be very effective in some of your other like social media marketing strategies. So if I was using Twitter or Facebook and I wanted to share something with somebody, let's say there was, you know, I want to have a target first of all. So I'm going to do a Twitter post. It's going to be about, do you need a condo under 200,000 with 3 bedrooms in Seattle? Check out these 3 units, right? I know my market. I know that there's very few condos. In fact, there's only 3 in all of Seattle that have 3 bedrooms that are under 200,000, right? I've got these links now. If my landing page or my website can create these kind of very specific targeted sorts of searches that I can send people to. Same thing with Facebook, right? If I wanted to show them the 7 bank-owned foreclosures in Phinney Ridge, right, including this 1 2-bedroom condo for 129,000, right? I have these very specific landing pages that I can send somebody back to. Your ability to generate traffic to your website and ultimately capture prospects is 100% predicated, I believe, on your ability to land people on very specifically targeted landing pages on your IDX. The site that I've been showing you is a market leader site. They own Active Rain. I use their site because I'm very familiar with it. There are other sites out there that operate like this. I'm going to implore each of you guys to figure out, do you have this capability in your IDX? Do you have the ability to create searches for very specific places and drop people in very specific areas? The example that I was using earlier here for Seattle Cedar Park, homes for sale in Seattle Cedar Park. If I was going to create the landing page for that piece of content, what I would need to do is come in here and say, okay, I'm creating a search for Seattle, right? Now I want the Cedar Park subdivision, okay? And I'll give them everything. I want all the properties that might be available in that Cedar Park subdivision right now. I'm going to create that link, and this would be the link that that person should be using, right? Because these are the 6 properties. And here's the deal. If this post gets found a year from now, right, this link back to that list of properties is still going to have the current properties because our IDX stays updated, right? It interfaces with our MLS, and whenever one of these properties gets sold, it comes off of our IDX feed, and whenever a new one comes in there, it populates again. Okay, we'll hammer on this a little bit more because it's that important. So we have the ability to create links in our blog posts. We want to be landing them in very specific places. We want to make sure that that link is up near the top of the blog post, above the fold, so that if they wanted listings, we can easily deliver them to them. Okay? A secondary way that we can have kind of a call to action inside of our blog is to entice them with images. These kinds of images are really easy to create. As long as you have the image that you want to use, you can do it at iPicky.com. And if you were to do it, iPicky.com is literally a thing where I created these types of images in about 3 minutes. Okay, it's a super simple kind of online photo editing website where I can create stuff like this. So the case on the left, what would my blog post do you think have been about? Maybe new construction in Kirkland under 400,000, right? The one on the right is homes in Seattle with a master bedroom on the main floor. Like these kinds of images. So let's go back and see. So I'm placing the image in there, but I got to also make sure that the image links back to the right place. So well, it's going to take me a second to get back because what did I do? I overtook it in my own window. But so I'm back to my listing here. Let's say I want to create an image in here for bank-owned properties in Green Lake. So I'm going to come in here. Right now, I've already created the image, but in terms of placing it in here, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to find the image on my computer. Green Lake foreclosures, there it is. All right, so let's load that thing up. So banks want these Green Lake foreclosures sold, find them here, right? It's just a visual call to action. It's not a link, it's not text based. So I'm going to say foreclosures in Green Lake. Same thing. I would have put the same thing there. For my appearance over here, I'm going to wrap my text, place my image on the right, wrap my text around the left. Now I know that's going to be too big, so I'm going to size it down a little bit, and we can even change that once we get in here. I'm going to make sure there's good white space around my image, right? I want that thing to be clean. Maybe I even put a little border on this thing. Boom. Here it is. So I've got my image call to action in here, but I'm not done yet because I need this to link somewhere, right? And where do I want it to link? Well, I want it to link to that same page that I was linking them to if they were looking for, via the text link. So I'm going to come back in here. Now for my image, I'm just going to click my image. I'm going to create a link out of my image. Okay, again, linking us back. If they click that image, the blog post has fulfilled its job, so we're going to do that in the same window. Give it a title. So now as I come down here and post my blog, I've now got two pretty visual or pretty obvious calls to action, both of them being above the fold, right? Both of them leading back to a very specific place. I opened that in a tab on purpose. But again, we're back to this list of the 6 properties that are currently available in foreclosure in Green Lake. So we can entice them with images. Now, again, it doesn't, like I've literally made that Green Lake foreclosures image in 3 minutes. It's just a matter of picking out an image, going to iPicky, and then adding some simple text around the image. I saw this recently. I was doing another class, and I came across, this is a lady, Christina Hood, out of Redlands, and I liked what she did here by way of including listings in the post itself, but not actually using current listings. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Let me go over here and find Christina's blog real quick. So I'm going to go to Active Rain, and I'm going to pull up Christina here. And she's got her blog right here. And so here's this post about the Redlands, California homes for sale foreclosures, January 2013. And you'll notice she's got this image in here, but if you can look down in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, it says ChristinaHoods.homes.com/listing/area/ that URL looks real similar to the URL that I have here. Right? Now she uses again a market leader site, but where did she get this image at? Well, I'm pretty sure that what she did is she created the search on her site, and then she just came in here and she took a snapshot of this. So she did something like this, and I'm using a Mac, so I can very easily take a snapshot on my desktop. You'll have to figure out how to do that, but boom, I just took a snapshot. Okay, then in my post here, I can come in, and maybe where I've got this, picture of the house, maybe I want to place that image in right there. So I could come here, all right, I'm going to browse. Now this one's going to be a screenshot that I just took. Is that it? That's not the one I just took. Sometimes my computer does some funky little stuff where it doesn't give me the screenshot right away in here. Oh, I know where it's at. It's on my desktop. There it is. Is that it? No, there it is. Okay, so there's my screenshot. Sorry about that. I'm going to upload that, and now she's got this image in here, right? I don't even really have to do anything. Maybe I could give it, foreclosures in Green Lake or something. I'm just going to insert that in there, and there it is, right? It dropped that image right in there, so it almost looks like these are kind of the currently availables, but a year from now, that's okay, because what's going to happen is I'm going to create a link now back to this page that she has for, foreclosures in her case in Redlands. I just come into my blog, and that's the page that I want to link back to. So maybe you don't want to use iPicky. Maybe you can figure out how to just get some pretty simple screenshots from your website. And so again, these aren't like clicking on this one or this one. It's not going to send us to that specific listing, but it's going to send us to a list of the current, bank owns in the Redlands. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope that didn't go through that too quick, but I really liked what she was doing in terms of kind of wrapping those listings in. And it wasn't the current listings, right? She didn't do this strategy, which was we do have the ability in some cases to embed content right into our blog. And this is an example from a company called RealBird. And some of you guys may use RealBird, but RealBird has some embed capabilities where you grab a piece of code from the RealBird website and you can drop that code in. Now this would keep it updated, right? So the updated listings would be in here, but I think Christina's strategy is just as effective because, again, a year from now, when somebody clicks on one of those, it's just going to take them to the currently available properties, that are bank owned in the Redlands. So our images, they don't have to be based around listings. Maybe we could entice them with a deal of some sort. And you already saw this image that I used in my website. Again, I created this very easily at iPicky. I'm sorry, I used it in my blog. Right? Banks want these Green Lake foreclosures sold. Right? It's just the concept of a deal. Right? I already showed you that live. But we always got to make sure we're landing them at the right spot. So it doesn't matter what your blog post is about. Okay, that idea that you can get them closer to what they think what you're telling them they're getting. Ooh, that was bad. What happened there? Escape. Sorry about that. I was trying to get that button. It's really important. Okay, and you'll notice like I've got that ability to really kind of hone my search in. If I was talking about waterfront properties. Right, I could get a search where I was just giving you the waterfront properties. If I was talking about condos, in a certain area, I could get in here and just talk about condos in Green Lake or condos in Belltown or something like that, right? Talking about condos in, let's say instead of Green Lake, we wanted to do Belltown. All right, there we go. That's the downtown area of Seattle. Maybe I just wanted to give them foreclosed condos in Belltown, with a view. Right? I've got that ability in here to create these very specific types of search, and here are the 3 bank-owned properties in Belltown, condos that have a view, right? Again, I will just hammer this home until I'm blue in the face because it's that important in terms of the traffic that's landing on your blog post and getting that person to most likely what they ultimately wanted, which was, I just want to see these listings, right? I want to see the listings in Belltown, the bank-owned condos in Belltown. If you have any kind of search widgets that your IDX allows, you want to figure out how to get those in. And there is some limitations on ActiveRain in terms of what widgets you can opening that up a little bit. These widgets are a tricky little deal because they're one of the primary places that nefarious individuals like to get in and attempt to exploit your website. So we have like an approved list of widgets. If you've got something that's not showing up on your sidebar when you add it as a widget, you can let us know by emailing support@ActiveRain, and we've got kind of a backlog of things that we're trying to make available to you guys. But if you have search widgets, there's a potential you can get in there and place those things somewhere on your blog, and a lot of times that's going to be in that right-hand column on your ActiveRain blog. Home values, I think, I'm not exactly sure. I get this question all the time, but how do I target sellers with my blog? And One way would be to write blog posts about home values in very specific geographic areas. So you might be doing, home values in Cedar Park, Seattle, for instance, where Cedar Park is a subdivision of Seattle. But when we do that, like, what are our options then for attempting to capture somebody's information? Well, we could certainly use these kind of image calls to action, right? We could use widgets, and Zillow provides a variety of different widgets, and if you pay close enough attention, there's some hubbub out there about Zillow widgets and are we helping Zillow perform better in the search engines. But if a widget's valuable to my business, I'm going to use it anyways. So Zillow has some ways for you to create widgets based on your profile on Zillow, where any of the the information that somebody gets is kind of branded with you, and any page they drop on Zillow has your branding wrapped around it. Another good way to potentially get information from somebody right on your blog, especially as it relates to like home values, for instance, would be to embed forms. And Wufoo.com is a site it's pretty simple to use. Now, the first time you use it, it might take you a little bit of getting used to, but Wufoo allows you to create forms that you can embed in your blog. I'll show you an example of one of these forms on one of our outside blogs, and this is something that Ben Kinney, who's a friend of mine, this is an Active Rain outside blog, and he has it at liveauburn.com. But this right here is just a post, okay, where he created a Wufoo form that said, hey, get a free list of Pierce King County foreclosures, bank-owned and short sale properties. And he just created this Wufoo form that once you submit it actually directs you back to his website to look at, I think it's bank-owned and short sale properties in Seattle or something to that effect, okay? These forms allow you to do redirects after somebody submits the form, that you'll collect the information once they submit the form. It's a pretty easy way. He actually uses this for a pay-per-click campaign that he does on like Pierce County foreclosure lists, or he's got a couple of different keyword phrases that he targets on a pay-per-click campaign that just drop people on this form. But again, this is something that we could embed underneath a blog post. Okay, super simple to create these kinds of forms at Wufoo, and I think Carrie sent you the Wufoo link in your chat area so that you don't have to write that down. Wufoo.com. Another kind of call to action, or just something that you can place on your blog that has the ability to attract people, is video. Okay, video, we talked about it in some of our previous class. I think in our SEO class, we talked about using video on the page to keep people on the page longer, to send a signal back to the search engine that this was a valuable piece of content. This is a guy, his name's Sonny. He's based out of the Seattle area here. I came across him having embedded this YouTube video of his listing presentation, and he's got this really slick listing presentation that he does on his iPad, but he created a video of himself doing his listing presentation. So, if Sonny was to have this on a blog post that he'd written about home values in Cedar Park, Seattle, right, and somebody gets in there and they've got a form they can fill out that allows them to get a free CMA from him, but then they can go in and actually engage with him by watching his listing presentation. That's a really powerful piece of content for somebody to have on a page. The next videos are client testimonials, and I see people using these, but maybe not the most effective ways possible. I see a lot of people using client testimonial videos on their profile pages on Active Rain, but I don't see as many of these things like at the bottom of blog posts. I don't see as many of them in the right-hand column on your blog, and I'll give you an example of somebody who does use videos in the right-hand column. I think that's his blog. Greg's got some videos over here in the right-hand side of his blog, and these they're a little bit more kind of motivational type videos that he's using, but this would be a great place for somebody to place in like a client testimonial video, or that video that Sonny had about watch my listing presentation. This little area right here on the side, it's something that's going to carry across to all of your blog posts. So every single one of Greg's blog posts, and any of the traffic that he's driving here, they're having a chance to see these videos. And so what you can do by way of adding those videos is you come here to your blog settings, and I just click my name, and Greg's picture is messing it up a little bit, but when you click on your name, there's an ability for you to get to your blog settings. And this blog description area right here is where you would embed that YouTube video. So what Greg's done is he's just embedded his YouTube videos in here, and he went ahead and sized them so that they kind of properly fit over there on the right-hand side. But those videos are carrying across to any and all of his blog posts that he's written. So that's a great place to utilize those videos. Not so much a call to action, right, as it is just a way to additionally engage somebody who's landing on your page. So, and then people want information. And so a lot of our blogs, are serving kind of this purpose, or they're giving people information. And in our keyword class last week, I talked a lot about kind of ways that people search for properties and how we can direct them to our blogs. And that's where we'd want to make sure that we have the links, the image calls to action, the really cool one that Christina's doing. I really liked that one. But what about if they're just looking for information? Like, what are some of the things that we could maybe do on our pages to make it easy for them to connect with us? One way would be to make it easy for them to ask for more details. So maybe a Google Voice call widget. You always want to have a good signature line in your blogs to make sure that people have the ability to connect with you in a lot of the different arenas where people might be making connections. So there's a lady, she does a pretty good job, but there's numerous examples of this around Activate. You'll see Debbie here. This is kind of her signature line, right? It starts right here. So this gets attached to everything that she does. And so she's got, the ability for people to call her as we kind of scroll down here. She's got a good set of links. She's got the chance for you to connect with her in some of your different social media arenas. She's got a chance for you to email her very easily, right? There's a little bit going on here, but a nice clean signature line will allow you to kind of bring in some of these things like a Google Voice widget, or the image calls to action in terms of driving them to your social media. We might also drive them to forms. So again, those embed forms from Wufoo, these things, the one that I showed up here earlier, not super pretty, but you can make these things look a lot better. It's going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of playing around with Wufoo, but it's just an ability for you to have somewhere that you can drive somebody to capture information from them. Something of value to deliver them. Okay, so maybe it's a list of the best price properties, or it's a list of foreclosures and short sales, or it's discounts on services, or some kind of a guide that you put together. Or maybe you've got a couple of pocket listings that you wanted to share. The idea here would be to allow them to download a PDF. And you would have to have some kind of an image that kind of indicates, right, that they're going to get a PDF, right? So they would click here. How does that process kind of look? Well, you have to find somewhere to host the PDF. We use a site called Wistia when we host PDFs for you guys to be able to download. Google Docs offers an ability to host a PDF that people can go and download. Then you'd have to create the form, right? So it's a Wufoo form, ask them to fill out their information, right? Tells them they're going to get the free list of bank-owned properties or whatever it is, and then the auto reply on the form leads to the PDF. So you can set Wufoo up in two ways. You can either have it just kind of redirect to a page that says here's a link you can go to, or you can have it send an email out to them that would include a link to the PDF. Okay, but the part that maybe is not in here is you got to kind of have that image call to action on the blog so that they know that if they click there, they're going to be led to the form that they would fill out, right? Which once they submit it, they now get the information about how to obtain the PDF. I don't think I could close this. I actually added this not too long ago. we did a survey, Market Leader, I shouldn't say we, Market Leader did a survey recently of 400 recent home buyers and sellers. And there was a number that came out of this survey. They did the people that did the survey for us did a presentation here, and I got a chance to sit in on that. And as they were flipping through their slides, and it was the stats guy. I don't know if you guys have ever, if you can remember back to college that we took your stats course, and this guy's talking about medians and means, but I'm kind of looking at the numbers that he has up there. One of the stats that was actually mirrored in a recent study that NAR and Google did was 77% of first-time home buyers drove by a listing they saw online. So you can have them on your website, right? We can capture their information, but the reality is a lot of these people are still going out and driving by houses, right? So your probably most visible call to action in the real world is your sign. And I would really encourage anybody on this call today, think about your sign's ability to generate leads for your business. If 3/4 of the people that are buying houses are actually out driving past the houses that they see online, you want to have some ability. And there's some companies out there that offer this kind of text to lead capture opportunities, right? Go to Google, type real estate text to lead capture, something of that nature. I'm not going to suggest one to you. There's a bunch of them out there that do this. So just think about the real world every once in a while. I've tried to give you some good ways to kind of create some good ways to get people to take action when they land on your blogs. And again, kind of harness through all of this, at least early when we were talking about listings, is that ability to land them on a very specific place. If you have a bunch of blog posts out there right now, or even if you're just getting started, it's kind of a process, right? The first thing is get the content created that in turn generates traffic to my blog. That's the first step in the process. The second step in the process is figuring out, how do I get the traffic from my blog to an area or to something where I can capture that person's information. And when they're looking at listings, that's ultimately getting them back to our IDX in order for them to see the listings. But the next step then is, once they're on there, can I capture them as a lead, right? So you want to make sure, I showed you real quickly how the Market Leader sites capture the person, right? They can do searches, they can look at that first house, and on the second house, we're going to attempt to capture their information, right? So we want to make sure we're landing in very specific places, because again, these are truths, and we learned these lessons the hard way. You have a very short amount of time to capture somebody's attention, and the more clicks you force them to take, the more likelihood it is that they will not do what you wanted them to do, which was essentially become a lead for your business.